this VM image. So we don't have to find the exactly same operating system. Instead, I can install the VM player, the virtual machine manager application. Then this software that is the VM player. Okay, you can download free from the internet. Then we can start the other operating system. This is CentOS. So even I don't have to shut down the entire system. It's actually the suspend. So this is a certain state. I stop at the not stop. I suspend at this moment. So I think that this one is the Cloudera SQL, the interface. So this is a CentOS. Let's see. So Linux, you can see the Linux. So also it's connected. So we can use the even internet browser. It's connected through the VM player and basically use this one. Where is it? So there's a network. I don't think it's connected. Yeah, it shows the same thing, right? So I'm going to suspend again for future use. So this VM player saves the current status. Then next time when this one is the restarted, then bring the old information again. Okay. This is the virtual machine. So cloud computing, as I briefly introduced, is we can use the computing environment as a service. Okay, iCloud is an example of what? Storage service. They provide, it's a free, and certain level you need to pay. It's a 5 gigabyte. I'm not sure. So certain the amount of storage, after that you need to pay. So if they use the infrastructure as a service, sometimes we can use the Word, MS Word, which you never purchased through the internet. At that time you can pay such a service based on the time or amount of resource. Okay, so this is the new computing environment you can consider. And also nowadays real-time embedded system, you should be careful. There is no real-time system. Real-time, when you are saying the real-time in the computing architecture, which means, what does that mean? Real-time. It's a fast, even though your system is the fastest one. It cannot be executed right away, same time as you command. So it can be near real time. So when we are saying the real-time operating system it's a guarantee. Okay? Guaranteed means your command will be executed within, for example, 5 seconds. Or the 0.005, something like that. It's guaranteed. To do that, your operating system should be very, very serious about the priority. And your operating system should have different algorithms for such a real-time operating system. For example, do you know what is a deadlock? Yeah. Deadlock means nothing you can do. Like for example, I'd like to have his laptop. Okay? But this his. But he is interested in my cell phone. So he's waiting for this. So keep waiting, right? So until either of them die, cannot be solved, right? So it's a deadlock situation. You can encounter such a deadlock situation a lot of time, like the traffic, right? Traffic is serious. So honk a lot if you go to Manhattan, the city block, so deadlock situation. So how can operating system handle such a deadlock situation?
Release.
Actually, operating system does not care. Really, why? You will see later what is the deadlock situation, what will be the solution. But operating system actually doesn't do anything because it's expensive. It takes time. Who is in charge of that? User. User is that's the reason you like a lot of time Control C or send the keys to the okay. So even though system is a hand, the operating system doesn't care. That's not real-time operating system. Operating system should care about that. However, it requires different approach, different algorithm, and needs a lot of the other computer resources. We will see later how to handle such a deadlock situation. Nowadays, good news is many of the operating systems are open source. Microsoft, I'm not sure whether Windows 8 still. How much is that? 100? More than 100? But mostly it's included in the hardware, but still it's not free. But you can find the better operating system actually from the open source. Any questions so far? It looks like the history of the operating system. But anyway, this is it. Introduction part. Then in chapter 2, we will see. This is let's go database. We will see general the information of the operating system, especially focusing on the more in the data structure. So that is operating system structure. Many of them are already discussed. Okay, the last class and today's class. First, what are the parts of operating system service? So first thing is when you are using the operating system, you can see the kernel. No, actually, what you can see from the operating system is interface, right? That is one of the most important. The role of the operating system is the interface between user and the system. Okay. Which one is better operating system? User does not don't have to worry about what's going on inside, even never been aware of the running inside the system, or the system can customize everything and take care of the inside of the kernel. Which one is better? In general purpose, first one is better. Sometimes the user wants to customize their operating system, so that is a reason. Some of open source, because they open the source code and can customize the kernel, are popular. But anyway, in general purpose, such a high abstraction level of the interface is better. There are different types of the operating system user interface. So we will see that one. Also, another main role of the operating system is process. That's key part. All work and activity in operating system are based on process. Create process, terminate the process, manage the process. Everything is a process. So another one is a program execution. The last part is I/O operation. So you can store the data, your information in the storage, which means you need input and output. From hard disk drive, memory need the input and output, your screen need the input and output, the keyboard input and output, and USB need the input and output, the memory need the input and output, your CPU need input and output, everything. So I/O operation are everywhere, so in other words, the operating system need to care. Especially I/O need a lot of system research. It's very expensive, the research. So that is the reason most of operating system provide even monitoring system or monitoring program to see these three. In addition to that, there are more the services in the operating system, file system manipulation, so it's part of the I/O management, and also communication, not a single node, the operating system or computer, but we have the multi and many of them. But mostly these can be discussed in the other course, like the DCC, right? So we are not going to discuss a lot, but instead not intra, like the inter-process communication we will discuss, which is IPC. Error detection is another important thing. So there is no perfect 100% error-free operating system. If we don't have to run this one. Instead, we can use that, right? But unfortunately, there is no error-free one. So key part is how to detect, how to resolve such issues. So sometimes the operating system ignore that, but most of the time operating system need to do something. So we will see such a part. Also, resource allocation, one of the important ones. So that's the reason we have the many algorithms how to allocate the resource fairly. Not always uniformly fairly. We need to consider some priority. Okay? And also we keep track of such a information about the system, which is called accounting. For example, I'd like to build a cloud computing. So I'd like to sell my system resource, CPU separately, memory separately. So how can send a bill to my user? So think about how many of you are renting a room? Okay, some of you. So do you feel it's fair to pay the bill? Do you pay the bill for electricity and utility bill? No, it's all bill paid. So included. Sometimes if not all bill paid, so landlord sometimes even it is bill, right? So my friend in the next room, he uses AC and heater a lot, so it's not fair, right? So, but how can measure? So we can put a different device, or so it's a problem of the accounting. So accounting keep track of such a use by using resource by what? Process, okay, or user. Okay. Then if one process reach certain level of the system resource, you can do something. It's the event, condition, and action. Have you ever heard about ECA rule? I think in your software engineering, it's a simple ECA rule. It's like a trigger in database. So event, if something happened, then check whether this event is qualified for, is allowed, or some unusual, it's a condition. So then action, do something. So you can use such a accounting information for ECA and whatever. And also as I introduced protection and security. So these are the general overview of the operating system service in terms of the service. So this is a hardware. On top of that is the application, actually. Then these are the operating system service that we are going to discuss. So first, interface. Interface. The most popular interface is not the Windows, it's what? Command line interface, like the terminal. Okay, CLI. So, example of the such a CLI is a shell programming. If you are familiar with the Windows-based system, it's a CMD. And before CMD, it was DOS, MS-DOS. But MS-DOS is kind of operating system. It's DOS, right? OS, DOS. I cannot remember what D stands for. Anyway, desktop operating system, I'm not sure. But it's operating system. Where is it running? Windows 3.1, Windows 95. How many operating systems? 2 operating systems are running at the same time. That causes a lot of problems. That is the reason Windows 3.1 and 95 are worst operating system, really. Then they try to integrate, because when the Bill Gates developed the operating system, something like that, he didn't implement the entire operating system. He tweaked this part, and MS-DOS part, and the interface part. So it's like the mosaic. Okay, he stitched a bunch of things. So that causes the worst operating system. So, however, this is not the separate operating system like the MS-DOS. It's the interface level, application level. So when you open, for example, the Windows, you can see the process of Explorer. Okay, this is kind of interface, shell program. By clicking some of them, it can execute. But in case of the Linux environment, Unix environment, as I showed you before, let me execute again one more time. Yes, this is a terminal program. This is the shell program. So, for example, I want to see which shell am I using. It's a bash shell. I'm using BASH application. This application is for interface. It's nothing but interface. Using this one, I can, for example, execute some command like the ls, what else? ps, something like that. Also, I can execute Java program. This is a command line interface. Command line interface. When I execute this kind of thing, can machine understand what is the JAVA, Java, or the other command? It will be interpreted. So, such a command line interface, a shell program provide. It's a program language actually. Believe it or not, it's a program language. Shell programming. That's the reason you probably heard about the shell programming. What kind of shell programming do you know? CMD in Windows? What else? Python? Do you know Python? No? What about the Perl? Then? What about PHP? You know the PHP, right? PHP is the same level of application. It's a shell script language. You know the difference between PHP and the C programming, right? How do you compile PHP? How do you compile C program? C program has compiler. So entire source program will be compiled, then make the executable file. What about the PHP? You can run command by command, line by line. This is the same thing. Whenever I type the command, it will be interpreted. Actually, interpreter is a compiler, but it compiles line by line. Okay? if you have the line of command, even this one can handle if then else. You can do that. So if you are familiar with such as shell programming, I guarantee you can get a better job than the programming Java developer or the .NET developer. But not many people are using such a shell programming. What? Yes?
So batch file would be considered the same as PHP?
Yes. So you can use actually, you can use the PHP as the what? Web programming language, right? You can use the exactly same thing, bash shell, for web programming language. Okay? So how can you record? When you send a file, then you can request the bash shell script file. Then server side, web service, web server HTTP, Apache or whatever, it can call the bash shell and programming, and return data will be sent to your browser. So it's exactly same mechanism. Exactly. Okay? So that is the command line. So command line interface is not only for just execute the command. No, it's a programming language for communication between user and the computer. The reason why such a shell programming is used for such an interface for user rather than the other program languages, because it's line by line. Okay? So bone shell is one of the examples. That's it. What about the iOS? So how many of you are using MacBook? You use any other? What's your version?
I don't know.
You don't know?
670.
Yes.
For iPhone, is it iOS 7, I think?
They aren't exactly same, but they are like the cousin. Okay?
Linux based?
It's a Linux based. That's what I would like to ask and point out. What about the MacBook, iOS, or you are using the iPhone 5s, whatever? Their operating system, their parents is Linux operating system. So if you open the terminal in the MacBook, you can see this one. This is the exactly same interface as well. Yes. So if you are familiar with the Linux environment for interface, very easy to get used the MacBook or the iPhone, especially MacBook. So that is a reason many of the researchers prefer actually such a MacBook. Not me. I'm using the MacBook only for the research purpose. Sometimes many of the open source program, they are provided by the RPM. It's already compiled. You can just include or some package, which is not easy in Windows based. Okay. This is the command line interface in the MacBook. You can see some MacBook Pro, something like that. You can use basically most of the command used in Linux system in MacBook. Okay, IO state is very popular, the command line to monitor input and output status. I will show you later. Or VM state is for the VM state is for the processor monitoring. PWD is okay. However, one of the Linux system, even though Apple employed such a Linux-based kernel, but the problem was the interface. Long time. The first time I saw the Apple product was, I think there is a early 1980 Apple computer, I think 83, 84 Apple computer. But it's similar as the IBM XT or AT computer. Doesn't look like the current. But after that, I visited the University of Hawaii, 1993, 1994, 94. I think at the time I stayed a dormitory. So my roommate used the Apple. He played the SimCity game using the Apple computer, which is not possible in Windows 3.1. It's totally different interfaces. So I think that is the Aqua, something like that. So at that time, it's really different from the one in the Windows interface. So such a graphical user interface is getting important nowadays. Think about your cell phone, smartphone. Smartphone has very, very different. Actually, inside the smartphone, their Android, iOS, actually they are basically the same operating system. But in terms of the interface is totally different, right? So right now it's more important such a the graphical user interface. This is the early graphical user interface. You can see the mouse pointer over here. See, while removing such a huge, but basically it's the same mouse as the current one, right? So using such a mouse, you can move mouse pointer and select some of it. And also this is from Xerox part. So I have used this kind of the interface to manage the file for a while. Okay, so you can see some source and destination. If we are using the file transfer application, you can see similar thing, right? Source, local, and destination, remote. Then you can drag and drop, and you can transfer. So instead of the FTP and logon and the source command and the destination command and put, get, complicated one, you can use such a thing. This is a 1973, believe it or not. Then during the 1980s, as the early stage of the personal computer, then the graphical user interface has been developed a lot. Have you ever used the Windows version 2? I never. The first graphical user interface GUI from the Microsoft Windows, I think 3.1 for me. But it's this one. Have you ever heard about OS2? It's an IBM, the operating system to compete with Microsoft Windows. So IBM, I think it has been used for a while, but finally the IBM, the close the service of the OS2. But it's not bad actually. In terms of the concept of the operating system, it's much better than Windows. But I think because of the marketing and some user interface, actually Microsoft Windows survived. Even the headquarters of the IBM, most of the IBM employees, they use the Microsoft Windows rather than the OS2. And also in the Linux, even Linux, they provide on top of their kernel and the command line interface, they provide the graphical user interface. There is a key desktop and others. You can see a bunch of other user interface that's similar sometimes or better than the Windows interface. Then finally in 1990s, you can see some very familiar. You are familiar with this one. So this is a 3.1. This is a 95. Have you ever used the 95? I think so. Somehow I used a lot. I installed the 95 first time with the 60 floppy disk. Keep changing. At that time I was a new employee. I should install the more than 100 the computer. Wow. So it was So I really hate the 95. Anyway, so this is the still same as yours, right? So the Mac operating system. Almost, I mean. Almost. So this is current one. And you are familiar with this kind of the touch screen interface. I point out the touch screen will be touchless 4 years ago when I taught the multimedia database. Using image processing and video processing, it can be. So after that, when I checked the Apple website, so they have already the 5 pattern touchless. So by detecting the movement, it's not very difficult. I think it can be classroom project to control the screen instead of swipe, so you can actually move a finger. And I think some of the cell phone like the LG, they provide already the motion detect to control this one. It's not very difficult. But anyway, touch screen is one of the best. But think about the development of the interface. It's getting close to the natural human life. Okay? So actually the mouse wise, it's not very. Think about the 1,000, 10,000, millions of the human history. So our ancestor never used such a style, right? So it's a familiar thing. What about the touch screen even? It's getting close, but still far from our natural life. What will be the next one? Definitely voice recognition, right? And as I deliver my lecture with my voice recognition, or something hand. So we can communicate, like the sign language, without voice, we can communicate. Even sometimes, if I do not use a gesture, okay, it will be very boring, this class. So, gesture detection. Such a thing, such a detector of the human motion will be the next feature of the interface. Then, if you are smart, you can start your startup company to build such a, who knows, the IBM, Adobe, Apple, or the Google, buy the company. Then that is the only way nowadays as a computer science and computer engineering. It's a better probability than the lottery. Why not me? I'm too old to start such a thing. Okay, so operating system also provide the system calls as a part of the service. What is a system call?